Today I'm talking with Jaspal Dhani, himself a resident of London, quite close to the home of Together. Jaspal, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
So, Robin, my name's Jaspal Dhani, as you've rightly pointed out. I live in London. I've been involved with Together 2012 since my working days with UK Disabled People's Council. Today, I work as Chief Executive Officer, leading an organisation in North London called Every Parent and Child. And I'm also involved in wheelchair basketball, which I'm sure we will get to talk about briefly.
Well, before we go on to talk about Together, would you like to tell us a bit about your role as the Chief Exec of Every Parent and Child?
Yeah, sure. So as an organisation, we primarily support children and young people up to the age of 25. Those that are assessed as having special educational needs, those that are disabled, and those that are at risk of exclusions or at risk of sort of social exclusion, I guess, in community life. So we provide a number of services to support children and young people within the education setting to ensure that not only do they have a successful, thriving journey through the education system, but also that their skill base and their life chances are strengthened as a result of our services.
I mean, it sounds like a fabulous organisation. I mean, it's something that, as someone who grew up as a disabled person, that sort of support just simply wasn't there when I was at school, and probably a similar situation for yourself. So there's not dissimilar really in many ways to the kind of work that Together does. So how did you get involved with Together, and what's your role with the organisation now?
Sure. So the role is that I'm the chair of the Community Advisory Board. I, sort of support the charity in other ways as and when needed. But in terms of my involvement, that started when I was working as CEO for UK Disabled People's Council. Now, I remember it being 2012 when the London Paralympic Games took place. We, as UK DPC at the time, initiated a project to sort of celebrate the achievements of disabled people within sport and within the arts as well, and held a short exhibition at our offices in Stratford. And I think the idea was really born at that point, looking at, what was happening to celebrate the artistic achievements of disabled artists, etc., particularly at sort of community level. And we recognise that within the host borough, Newham, there was practically nothing happening at all. So following our sort of conversations with other communities and the work we had done to promote and celebrate the London 2012 Paralympics, Together 2012 was born as a legacy project, really, to continue sort of championing and developing and creating opportunities for disability arts to be developed and promoted, and just creating opportunities, I guess, for disabled people to take part in art. So, here we are years on, and the organisation has done some incredible work, and we've got some great plans for the future as well. So that's what was born out of the legacy, as it were. But it was really driven and developed by the disabled community.
You mentioned earlier, in fact, that you have your own involvement in sport as well. So, I mean, do you do any art yourself? But also, what's your kind of sporting background?
I haven't done art directly myself in a very long time, although with Together 2012, I did do a stint of wheelchair dancing. Which was fun. I still have some fond memories of that. But that was really the limit. My own involvement is in wheelchair basketball and has been since I was 12 years of age. So that takes us back some 40 years. And I guess sport in itself has an element of art. It is about creativity and sort of immersing yourself in an idea. But that's I guess with wheelchair basketball, it's a bit more physical than other types of art. But yeah, I enjoy that immensely.
So, which team do you play for?
Those London Titans. And in fact, it's a team that I co-founded some years back, and we've become, I think it's the second largest club in the country now. And we've created a few Paralympians along the way as well. Gaz Chowdhury started sort of life as a junior in not so much within the London Titans, but within sort of the previous life of London Titans. So Gaz Chowdhury is probably the more popular name following the recent Paralympics, and of course Adi Adapitan, who's gone on to be a TV personality, to name but a few.
Kind of more importantly, or equally importantly, you're using your basketball and your basketball skills and understanding to take sport further afield. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was born in India, in Punjab, but grew up in London. And gosh, it was after sort of 29 years that I went back to India. And that's when I had the idea of bringing wheelchair basketball to disabled people there. And it wasn't until 2013 that I had the opportunity to start a project in Chennai. I gathered some wheelchairs through my sort of network here in the UK, and set off to deliver a 2-week program in India. And from that, from that point, local communities, I guess, have really sort of took to the idea. And wheelchair basketball is now the second largest wheelchair team sport in India, so the number one being cricket. But over the years, where we are is India has the Wheelchair Basketball Federation of India, so that's the governing body of sport, and I sort of go across to India once or twice a year to run development camps and sort of camps for the national teams, and really being a witness to seeing how the sport has enabled the sort of empowerment of disabled people, and particularly women and girls who traditionally been quite isolated. So for me, it's been a exercise in giving back to the community, something which I have benefited from for many years myself. And I'm looking forward to my next trip, which is going to be in February next year. So obviously the lockdown's been very difficult and impossible to do anything, sort of during that period. But February, we are looking at starting a new group in Gujarat and running a few workshops down in sort of South India. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey and incredible process. And I think like art, it's really enabled sort of different communities to come together and participate in something that everyone can relate to.
I mean, it sounds fascinating. I mean, and so productive. And just kind of going back to a comment that you'd said about the empowerment, do you feel that the involvement in the sport has a wider empowerment in their kind of local communities and beyond that?
Oh, absolutely. There's one, for example, one young man whose name's Partha, he became, he broke his spine some 7 years ago, and he attended his local university in Chennai on a grant. And so we had the opportunity to start a wheelchair basketball camp at that university, which is how he then became involved in wheelchair basketball. 2 years later, he wanted to come to London and see what life was like. So his university sponsored his flight. I supported his accommodation, and whilst he was here, he attended some training with the London Titans and had an opportunity to meet with the Great Britain national men's coach, Haj Bahania, as well. To cut a long story short, just through that exposure and through that network, he is now at the Alabama University in the States, studying inclusive sport, and he gets to play wheelchair basketball there every single day. So had it not been for his participation in wheelchair basketball, I highly doubt he would have had the opportunity to be where he is now. But also, I've seen and I've kind of witnessed a number of other disabled participants start up their own sort of businesses and charities in India through, because of, well, through the confidence, I guess, they've developed by taking part in a sport like wheelchair basketball and the skills. And also the governing body, the Wheelchair Basketball Federation of India, they've also gone on to provide skill-based workshops, just to help develop the skills of the community. And as a result, people have gone on to set up their own sort of workshops and secure careers in international companies. So it's been empowering in many ways for.
That's amazing, and a fantastic note to end on. I mean, let's hope that come Paris, or is it LA after that, that the Indian wheelchair basketball teams, both men's and women's, are there competing for medals. Jaspal, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.